Hi, I'm Seamless, and this is the 61st 75K tutorial. And today, this one was requested by LeeKeyBuhm. And this is a hardstyle, Headhunterz and Crystal Lake sound. I don't actually know who made it, but it's this sound. This 75K is going to be a bit different because I didn't nail this sound, but I found like 3 different ways to maybe nail the sound. This is actually very similar to what happened when I did the one of the sub-focus sounds. Anyway, I took this sound because I thought initially, okay, it's going to be some kind of, it's going to be like an acid type thing, right? And the acid process is one where you take a saw, you low pass it with a really high resonance, and then you distort it. You know, it sounds kind of like this. You know, that kind of thing. As you can hear, it sounds kind of like it, but not like it. And then I remembered, oh wait, there's that trick with this that I mentioned, the sub-focus sound, where you take a square and you FM it by a saw. And you can see this was an octave higher, and it's actually layered with a bunch of other stuff, and this is what I got for this guy. That's actually a little closer to the right modulation, but it doesn't have the right expressiveness. And by expressiveness, I mean what happens when we play high notes. Now, a lot of that I could just chalk up to like specific kinds of distortion or whatever. I'm not doing, but other parts of it weird me out. Where like this whole thing, these are saw waves. Like we have the saw series in there, and like at first I'm like, are these just not the same sound? Because when it gets high up there, you can kind of see that the saw series harmonics kind of go away for a second, but they are actually still there. They're just attenuated a little bit. Some act of filtering or phasing is causing it to go away for a moment. And actually, in the distorted version, or the harmor, if you put the filter low enough that it's on more or less the fundamental, and that gets pumped up a bit into the distortion, then it'll crowd out everything and come out to be basically just being a square wave. But that didn't really work out, you know, perfectly. And then of course, if you just keep listening to this line, it just fully it goes all the way up to the point where you are eventually just that high. So I'm convinced that it is the same sound. Like right there, two big differences. Like this one has a little bit of the regular, like the right harmonic series, and this one just fully does not. And they do sound a little bit different, but I'm fairly certain that's just the result of the process that high. That's just weirded me out. So then the third way I tried doing this was to actually just do the brute force method, where I was like, okay, I see lines going down like this. How do I know that I can make lines going down like that? Well, I can use Harmer's phaser to just make lines going down like that. And you can kind of, but it's again not quite the right expressiveness. So I have a whole bunch of ways to do a more or less the same thing that are almost right, but not quite there. And I decided, well, I'm not going to nail it, but that is an awful lot of useful information. The one thing I want to point out about the FM business that I'm doing here, this is awfully similar to what oscillator sync is, and you can actually just accomplish this with something like Serum by doing more or less the same deal, only instead of having like FM doing it, you could just straight up just say sync it. Just go sync. In fact, I would not be surprised at all if people who did sounds like this actually just use Serum to do it. It is a bit above a more straightforward option. However, I was trying to be clever and trying to solve for synthesis rather than solving for ease. The FM bit It's probably the greatest chance to get it right, but there's still a bunch of other parts of it that it's just wasn't able to get. Like, what's going on in this particular guy? This is a square or whatever. Then I have this other oscillator. That's actually an octave lower, sort of. By sort of, because what's coming out of here is supposed to be actually like this level. That's the correct level for this FM to be doing that. But I needed that tone, but an octave lower. And if I did just play an octave lower, it just doesn't go high enough to get the very specific tone that they get out of that. So, octave lower it is. Now, this is also a saw wave, though. The rest of the leads has a saw wave series to it. This is a square. You might be thinking, okay, we'll just FM a saw. It didn't quite work out that way. And of course, that's why we're FMing with a saw to begin with. If we were at the right pitch, that we would get the saw series from the modulation. But because we're doing an octave lower, and remember, when you FM something by an octave higher, you get the square series. It doesn't matter by what you're doing it. If it's twice as fast, you'll get the square series out of it. So that's why we're layering in there this busted up saw. This is a saw where you go convert the sound harmonics into randomized phases, and it gets us this kind of big mess here. So that against the square gets us the closest I'm gonna get at least to what's happening in this lead. This is of course being distorted pretty heavily. It's really just a big old push here. I probably could have just done this actually. Inside inside citrus by just running in here and doing a wave shaper, because it's literally the same thing, but force a habit. Anyway, I'll give you this entire FLP, even though I didn't really nail it, just because there's a lot of neat ideas in there, and some of you might be able to take some of this and run with it in some ways that will be beneficial. I don't know, words. Yeah. Anyway, if you'd like to make a request for yourself, you can't. Sorry. The Reddit thread where I took all the requests is archived. But there's more than 2,000 requests in there already, so I'm pretty sure I'll find enough to do 13 more of these. If you do have any great questions, please let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And as usual, have a nice day.